Thank you again for joining me for another day text. I know we've taken a few days off, but I've been working on a number of different things, and I have a lot coming through the pipeline, you could say. So I hope that you will stay attuned to the videos. I should be putting up another one later today, Hollywood garbage dump video, and then we're going to do an open session. Excuse me, let me get my setup here going. We're going to do an open session this Saturday, open session number 3, and I have a lot. So have your questions ready. We'll follow up on last Saturday's CW Jaw Talk. I have some other issues that I want to bring up that we can also discuss. But we're going to get back to these day texts because I've been missing them, and I know that you've been waiting. So let's get to it. We're still in the letter of James chapter 1, and I'm going to read verses 22 through 25, and I put the text in the description below so you can follow along with me if you'd like. We'll get right to it here in just a moment. So we have CW Jaw Talk, open session, I should say, this Sunday. I said Saturday, but things are changing quickly. A lot of good things are happening. So let me stick with the CW Jaw stuff. So this Sunday, we're moving our CW Jaw Talk series and open sessions from Saturday to Sunday. So 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Sunday. We're going to do open session 3. And then thereafter, we'll also do our CW Jaw Talk series on Sundays. So I'm going to get to the text here in just a moment. A lot of good things have been happening. I was able to move on from a group of people that I never really should have even tried to work with again, because they just don't have it. They just don't have what it takes to excel and exceed in life in ways that are meaningful. And sometimes, you need to get some experience with people to figure out what they're really about. But once you realize what's going on and the kind of people you're dealing with, if they're not going the same way you are, move on. There's a lot we need to do. And I'm just getting started. So let me get to these texts. But the good news is that I have made some changes that will allow me now to really excel in the way that I was trying to originally several months ago, before I considered an opportunity from people who are completely unreliable in almost every way. But I gave it a shot, because sometimes you have to try opportunities and ways to see what they're about. But once you realize the kind of people you're dealing with and the things that they value, you got to move on. If they're not holding the same values as you do, or they have delusions in their mind that you can't penetrate to help them understand reality better, it's a tough place to be. So you have to find people who are either like you or who aren't going to hold you back in ways that involve delusions of grandeur. or they're so controlled. I'll tell you what, I've met so many people recently who think they're like great, and they're so controlled they can't do anything unless people above them tell them what to do. The worst way to live, unless of course you're in an arrangement with someone who's good to you. These people are self-abusive, constantly looking to hurt other people. But I didn't realize exactly what was going on at first, so it took me a little while. And in any case, I'm very happy to have moved on, because you go through periods where you try to decide what future is best for you, and there's sometimes paths that you can choose that seem good at the start, but when you look down the road, you realize that's not where it's going to end. The start is different from the end, and so you have to realize it's either a trap or it's not a good path. So a lot of life is about choosing the right paths and the things that are going to help you to excel. And in our way, excelling has to do with praising Jah. It's not how much money we make. I mean, life is good, and I'm glad I have opportunities, and especially now that I'm away from certain people who constantly look to hold others back to promote themselves. And even then, don't even choose the right course. But once you realize what's going on, you have to make your situation better in that sense. But even if you're in a situation where you have to work with people that don't share your values or who put money and their perceived authority above love and worship of Jah, then you just keep doing your best until the situation changes, because we all have to deal with difficult situations and trials at times. We cannot always have the job we want. We cannot always have the friends who we hope we would have, or that would help us in ways that we expect real friends to do, to be there for us. You know, I'm not talking about money. People who you can rely on to talk to, and who are always trying to take something from you. There's people like that. That's all they know how to do, is take. That's it. Even if they don't want it, they can't help it. They're just addicted to stealing and taking everything. Whereas I and you and people like us, we're giving, right? I mean, we followed Jesus, who gave, who constantly looked out for the needs of other people because he knew the Father. He knew what was going on. We do too. And a lot of people around us, they're confused. They don't look at the evidence. They don't look at the things we look at, like with the flood and with the divine name. They don't care. Even if the answer's right there, they don't want it. So things don't always go our way in those terms. But I am happy to say, as I mentioned at the outset, that I have been able to achieve something better and what I was trying to achieve, previously, but that I got derailed from because of these other people who are constantly looking after their own selfish ways. And they lie about everything. They lied to me, misrepresented the opportunity. They just constant lying. I can't take it. I mean, these lies, it's like breathing to them. It's all they know how to do. They're taking a breath and they breathe out a lie. It's really sad. I mean, I do. I feel very sorry for these people who they almost cannot tell the truth. It's like impossible for them to do it. I don't know. Either way, let's focus on these texts. So I'm going to get right to it. And let's talk about James chapter 1, 22 through 25. I'm going to go ahead and start reading, and then we'll discuss the text. Okay, so James chapter 1, verse 22 reads, "You must become doers of the word, and not hearers of it only. Otherwise, you're deceiving yourselves. If anyone is a hearer of a message, and not one who carries out the message he hears, this one has become like a man looking at his own unique face in a mirror." Verse 24, "Because after he looks at himself and has gone away from the mirror, he immediately forgets what he was like. On the other hand," verse 25, "the one who seriously considered the entire law of freedom, and who then decided to continue following it, this one does not become a forgetful hearer, but rather he is one who actually does what he is supposed to." Am I okay was my hair in place? These things. We forget. We just took a look at ourselves in the mirror. And I've had this happen. I mean, I don't usually do it, but I mean, at times, I just looked at myself in the mirror, and then I go somewhere and I think, okay, how do I look? It's just natural human to want to know how you appear to others so that you feel appreciated, or that you're your best. You look your best. But if you've already taken a look at yourself, you've already seen what you look like, resist the temptation to doubt. And I'm talking about the literal mirror now, because it's an illustration that we're going to use for what kind of person we are and the things that we're actually hearing and doing. Resist the temptation to doubt yourself after you've looked in the mirror. I'm talking literally. Okay? This is an exercise. Once you have looked at yourself in the mirror and you're acceptable, right? You've got everything in place. Don't think about it again. Discipline your mind not to look in that mirror again. I'm talking literally now. We'll get to the figurative in a minute. But let's start with this literal, because the illustration is about the literal representing the literal mirror, that is, representing the figurative. So let's get the literal right. Okay, let's get our minds right when it comes to looking at ourselves, literally, physically, and let it go. Check yourself, correct yourself, and then let yourself go. Don't think about it again. You look fine. Just talk about Jah. Talk to the people who are there. Don't let your physical appearance enter your mind to distract you. Why? Because you already know. You already know what you look like. And that is the point you need to remember here. You've already studied the law of freedom, right? The Mosaic law all the way through to the law of Christ. You've already decided you want to follow it because you've recognized the truth in the history and in the things that are taught and that are written down for us. Don't look. Don't go looking back again to see if it's really what you've already accepted. It's the mirror, and you've already checked it. And you look fine. Maybe you took a look and you saw something wasn't right, or you had something on your face, you correct it. Okay? The same as in life. You notice something, correct it. Don't ignore it and then keep thinking about yourself. Well, that thing, I know I had some spot here or this out of place, and you keep thinking about it. It's distracting you the whole time. So you have to correct whatever it is that's on your mind when it comes to your appearance, literally and figuratively. Because if you don't, you're either going to be distracted by it the whole time, or like in verse 24, you're going to forget that you're already all right. Maybe there's nothing out of place. Maybe you're just concerned about your looks in ways that have no reason for it. Maybe you're just concerned about something in these texts and there's no reason for it. You know, remember I've said many times I get questions about things like firstborn and others, and that's fine. I understand people have questions. But the answer is clear, right? So don't forget. You don't have to look back in the mirror. You don't have to look back in the mirror to check yourself all the time. And you don't have to look back in the mirror of the biblical records to check the same things all the time. You don't have to. You're just wasting your time and distracting yourself by what you already know, what you've already convinced yourself you look like, or that is there. It's the same thing. So unless you have a good reason, right? Unless something happened and the wind blew and really distorted your appearance in some way, and you really need to be intact for presentation, don't think about it. You're fine. You look great. Check yourself once, make a correction here or there. You're fine. Don't think about it again. Talk to the people. Do your job. Praise Jah. That's what you should be thinking about, right? You can't be praising Jah. You can't be doing your job if you're constantly wondering if you look all right, figuratively or literally. How are you going to be praising Jah if you're not sure if your faith is right? Is my faith right? Do I have everything in place? Well, did you check yourself? Did you look in the mirror to make sure it was okay? Well, if you did and it is, then why are you asking the question? It's human nature. And that's why James is giving this illustration. We do it all the time when it comes to the literal mirror because we worry about our appearance. We want people to think we look okay. It's understandable. But if you already look okay, not much is going to change from the time you look in the mirror to the time you walk out and talk to somebody. We just keep thinking about it because we haven't convinced ourselves of what we just looked at. We just saw our face. We just looked in the mirror. And now we're worrying about how we look. You see what James is saying here? We already know how we look. And we keep thinking about it as if we don't. We already know the law of freedom. We already know our history. We already know the truth about Jah and Jesus. And we've been talking about it for weeks on these videos. And for a lot longer before that, in writing and elsewhere. So why go back and look? Why doubt what we've already seen is true? We've already looked in the mirror. We know what we look like. We've already looked at the text. We've looked at the histories. We've looked at the evidence. We know what it shows. It's not going to change unless something really, unusual happens, and then we have to make a correction. Otherwise, it's right there. You're looking at it in the mirror. It's your face. The face of faith that you should have and that you should wear everywhere, because you have reasons to believe the best. We've got the best, and we can pass the test. So let nobody stand in your way when it comes to these texts and our history and the things that we believe and teach about the God Jah and the one whom he sent, Jesus, the one who changed the whole world and who's going to change it again. So we look forward to that time. I'm glad to be back doing these texts. I missed that. But I've been doing other things too. So like I said, I've been able to clear out my work situation. I got complicated with involvements with people who really had bad intentions and were just looking out for their own interest, trying to use me for things that they're not even qualified to handle. But in either way, it helped me to see what I need to focus on and do. It's like this mirror. See, I forgot. I started looking at the opportunities in the world and things that I could do better with, but I forgot I already had exactly what I wanted. And I still do. Because I was not so naive as to forget entirely. So I want you to do the same. Try to keep in mind these texts. I know I'm guilty of it all the time, G Master too. I forget it. We want to look good. Who doesn't want to look good? And sometimes, we know when, we get ourselves ready and then we do things and I don't know. It's human nature, I guess. We start thinking about our appearance because we can't see ourselves all the time and we want to look good. Now, I've learned to become much better at it. I think when you're younger, it's more on your mind, but I just take care of myself. I do the best I can and that's it. If something's wrong, I change it, but otherwise, both in a physical appearance and in a spiritual faith, I look in the mirror and I try to correct what I need to correct, and then I move on. I've gotten better and I'm getting better at it because it's hard. It's hard for us to accept what we already know and move on. So it's like with this whole firstborn. I'm using it as an example because someone asked a question. It was a fine question, new person, and I know people have the same question. I'm happy to answer it. But for those who've answered it before, not the most recent question on my channel, once we know the answer, we don't want to keep having to go back to check the text to make sure we read what we read or saw what we saw. We did. Well, that's where faith comes in. The belief in what we already know or have good enough reasons to believe, right? Like driving. We don't know. But who's not going to go out and drive today if you have a car and you need to go somewhere? So it doesn't matter if you know or not. We have to have the best reasons, right? Not just any old reason. They have to be the best. If we're going to take our life in our hands, and that's why we read these texts. We look at the history. We show what's been taking place. It's like looking in the mirror of history. Let's not forget it, because it's going to happen again. So in any case, that's today's text, and we're back. So occasionally I will be too busy, and I apologize for that if I'm not able to put up a notice. But I'm going to do my best to stay regular the rest of this week. So be prepared. And then this Sunday, remember, we're moving our shows from Saturday to Sunday. And it's going to be an open session. I'll have some topics to start with. But you can bring up anything you want. If you want to go back to last Saturday's Divine Name Show, whatever. We'll do another open session to try to cover issues or questions that may be related to videos that I've done to this point, or other things. I'm going to put up another Hollywood garbage dump. This one on Toy Story 4. Oh boy. So And in any case, I've got that one pretty much ready. I just need to finalize it. I should do that later today. And then I'm working on all kinds of other things. But as I mentioned at the start of today's video, I've really been able to turn a corner on my secular jobs and things. And I've been going back and forth with different things, and there's just not a lot of good companies out there. And I have a lot of unique skills and ways that they have to fit and be something people need in order to be effective. And so I'm looking for the best opportunity. But doing things on my own now has really taken off. And I knew it would eventually. So I'm going to keep going with that, do the best I can to maximize my secular skills so that I can put even more time and resource into making these videos, preparing my great message translation, and helping to build our community of job praisers and Christian witnesses who want to help each other and do good without anyone giving us anything in return. Right? I mean, we do appreciate love and support like everybody else, but we're not here doing this for anything other than praising Jah and helping people. This has nothing to do with money or fame or anything other than doing what is necessary to praise the name. Right? We're not looked at as people who are popular. Most people hate these videos, and I don't care because I love them, and I know you do too. And we're not here for the people who hate Jah. I'm never going to do what those people tell me to do. They're just upset because they've chosen a path that is low level, and they're jealous in many cases. I see it on their face. It's sad that we have this place, that we have this community of people that we can start to build and grow with. And it's so strange because rather than join it themselves and do what we're doing, they just hate. They just adopt these feelings like Cain. And as I've said before, it makes no sense. If you're that jealous and upset about what people are doing because you believe you should be doing it, then do it. Okay? Stop being jealous of other people. Do what you know is right. Look into the mirror, see what's there, and remember it. Don't doubt. Go and do what you know is right. And then I guarantee you, Jah will bless you. And even if you face trial and tribulation because you stand up and try to do what's right, that's just the precursor to the blessing. We all have to be tested. You should expect to be tested. But in the same vein, you should expect to be blessed by Jah when you come through it. That's what he promises you. So do not doubt it. It's a mirror. Look into it. Go away and don't look back. You already know what it shows. So I thank you all for that. I'm kind of still getting back into the flow because I haven't done these in a few days. And I'm glad you guys appreciate it. And so I will keep going. I had a few days where I had to really focus on work and stuff, so it took me out of the day text flow. But I'm back into it. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's day text. Open session number 3 on Sunday. Talk about anything. And then the Hollywood garbage dump. Should be back later today. So we'll see what we can find in these Toy Story 4 trailers. Oh my gosh. Oh boy, I should say. Well, the things that they're showing our children, it's depressing at times. But we have to move forward. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. And may God bless you in Jesus' name.